where my heart goes.
Alright, so for this video for Year 12 PDHPE Core 2 Factors Affecting Performance, we are looking at the dot point characteristics of the learner. So unlike the other dot points in the syllabus, the characteristics of the learner doesn't have dashes underneath it, but it does give you some suggested things that you could talk about as to how they would help a learner in not only acquiring skill, but applying that skill in their games. So those things are personality, hereditary, confidence, prior experience, and ability. On the right hand side, you're going to apply this information by describing how the characteristics of a learner can influence skill acquisition and the performance of skills. Let's go. Alright, so our first one we're going to talk about here is personality. So looking at an athlete's personality, which is a characteristic of a person, and how that will influence their skill acquisition. So when we talk about personality, we're simply talking about their behaviors, okay? Like who they are as a person, alright? An athlete or a person's personality will influence their levels of motivation, okay? Their willingness to learn new things or not learn new things, okay? Their determination towards, persevering in their learning, and their enthusiasm towards different aspects of activity and learning. So you can probably look at, our class itself, and you'll notice that all different people around the room are all different behaviours, okay? All motivated by different things. Some of you are willing to learn, and some of you are not so willing to learn, but it also can depend on the topic that we're currently learning about too. So the example that you can use is that an athlete who has an enthusiastic personality, okay, will be self-motivated, okay, because they're excited, they want to go for it, all right, they want to learn stuff. So self-motivated to learn new skills and open to new ideas and tactics, okay, as opposed to, somebody who isn't enthusiastic, they just like doing what they do and they don't want to challenge themselves and they don't want to learn something new because they don't see a point in it, all right? So one person's enthusiastic, will experience growth, the other person is just going to be stuck where they are, okay, and potentially not experience any growth at all. That's personality. Alright, so the second one is heredity, and heredity is simply your genetics, okay? Things that are given to you or passed down to you from your mother and your father and your family lines. So things like gender, age, body shape or body type, the race you are, and also your muscle fiber composition. So remember back from year 11, fast and slow twitch fibers, etc. All of this stuff is pretty much predetermined by your DNA when you're born, okay? So whether you're going to be short or tall, or muscular, or skinny, or fat, or the length of your limbs and all that kind of stuff, it's all in your DNA code, okay? And there's not a whole lot you can do to adjust that, despite how much training you do. That's why elite athletes are elite, mainly because they train really hard, but also they've got great genetics. So the example is that tall athletes, okay, which is obviously something genetically determined, will experience easier skill acquisition and skill progression, okay, in like height sports, such as basketball and netball, all right? There's a reason why 95% of all elite basketballs and elite netballs are over 7 foot, right? Or alternatively, athletes with a higher slow twitch muscle fiber count, okay, will experience more success with aerobic type events such as marathon runners, all right? So if you took like two runners, and they both did the same training program, they both weigh the same, they're both the same age, same race, same height, all of this stuff is the same. But one athlete has 5% more slow twitch fibers in their body than the other one, then this one should beat this one every time in a race. So that's heredity. So the third one we're going to go through is confidence. Right? So confidence is simply believing in yourself, okay? So believing in yourself and being egotistic as an athlete is not a bad trait, all right? A lot of people will, see athletes, professional athletes, elite athletes, or even the good athletes in your own teams, okay? And those athletes, the ones that are, for want of a better word, better than everybody else, have an air of, ego about them. Now in Australia, we have this thing, tall poppy syndrome, where we bring those people down, okay? Because, yeah, we know that they're better than us, but, they don't need to act like they're better than us, so then we pull them down and we call them sweats and things like that because they try really hard. Well, that's not necessarily the case around the world. It's just an Australian thing, and it's actually a really bad habit that you all should get out of. If someone's good at something, you should acknowledge how good they are at it, as opposed to bringing them down to make you feel better because you're just a horrible person. So, Our example here, athletes who believe that they can and that they will be successful in their chosen sports are more likely to be motivated to train regularly, okay, and make other life decisions like in their everyday life, such as what they eat, or how much time they sleep, or choosing not to go out partying on the weekend with their friends, or choosing not to consume alcohol and drugs and things like that, which therefore lead to success in their activity, all right? So it is the confidence that they have in their own ability and their ability to perform well in their sport, which will lead to a whole bunch of other things around their life, assisting them to be good in their sports. So that's confidence. All right, so our fourth one, prior experience. Right? So prior experience greatly assists the stages of skill acquisition as somebody or any athlete or even you guys who have an experience with a certain sport and those skills that you use in that sport, your body just doesn't forget that stuff, okay? There's the age-old saying that like, once you learn how to ride a bike, you'll never forget. This is exactly why it applies, okay? Because you have that experience, you have that motor pattern. And sure, if you don't ride a bike in like 20, 30 years and then you get back on a bike again, okay, that was like me when I used to ride a bike a lot when I was a kid, like a lot. And then started catching a bus to school in high school, year 7, stopped riding a bike because I didn't need to get around my local town anymore. All my friends now lived at least 20, 30-minute drive away, so I was either getting lifts with mum and dad or, finally getting my own Ps and driving to the houses. So I hadn't ridden a bike since I was like 12. And then when I moved down south to work at Vincennia, the school was actually only a couple of Ks from my house. So the walk, 20, 25 minutes, but a bike ride, 7, 8-minute bike ride. So I got a bike. So that would have been, how old was I? So that would have been like 13 years, okay, between riding a bike at the end of year 6 and riding a bike when I started working in Vincennia. And, was I a little bit wobbly the first time I jumped on? Yeah, okay. But within the first 100 meters, I was all over it. I was pretty much, I don't know, what's a good bike rider's name? I don't know. I was pretty much Mr. BMX guy. Would have really been punchy if I could think of a good bike rider right now, but I can't. Is there anyone good who rides bikes? I don't know. I do know, that was a joke. Anyway, off topic. Prior experience. So having that prior experience and those motor patterns ingrained in your body doesn't forget that stuff, okay? And therefore, when you go to try a skill again, you'll progress through the stages of skill acquisition much faster. Now, I did also mention in a previous video that there are 2 ways that can happen, laterally and vertically. So laterally means that you're transferring similar skills across sports. So for example, in my example, no, sorry, not in my example here. So for example, a basketballer shooting free throws can now go and shoot hoops in netball, okay? The skill is different, yes, agreed, but having experience in one means that you can laterally transfer that skill across to another and be able to progress through the cognitive and associative stages much faster. Vertical transfer is skill progression from something easier to something more complex, all right? Now, I'm not going to spend any more time on that because if you do need me to spend more time on that, you don't understand it, go back and watch your previous video because I did spend about 10 minutes talking about it there. So, common example, and I think I used exactly the same one in the previous video too, a basketballer who can shoot free throws, okay, has an easier time vertically transferring that skill to 3-pointers or doing a layup, all right? So once again, that skill of shooting the hoop into the shooting a ball through a hoop will be used, but then it's in a different context. So we take one skill, building on it to make another. So that's prior experience, and this is probably the most important characteristics of a learner as far as skill acquisition goes. So you might want to circle this part in your book. All right, so the last one in the syllabus is ability. So ability is simply a person's natural gift at sport and things. So what we're really looking at here are things like, your skill-related components of fitness. So some people, and you can see this at school as well, some people just have good timing, good coordination, good agility. It doesn't matter what they're doing. It doesn't matter whether they're kicking a soccer ball or playing basketball or playing league or hitting a tennis ball with a tennis racket. They get it. Whereas there are other people who will pick up a tennis racket and they cannot hit that ball for the life of them. And even after doing a 4 or 5 week unit on tennis, they're better, but they're still probably in the cognitive stage. Whereas an athlete who is naturally gifted and has ability is able to pretty much progress through cognitive stage within an hour with most things, okay? So due to the combination of factors such as our skill-related components of fitness above, some athletes simply have a natural ability of picking up new skills, and you know who these people are, all right? So, for example, an elite league player is also a top-level squash player in the off-season, okay? And when they go out with their family and friends on the weekend and do some 10-pin bowling, they also like high score, like well above what everyone else does on their team, even though they only go 10-pin bowling once a year, all right? It's not the fact that they are elite 10-pin bowlers, elite squash players, and elite league players, because league playing is their thing. It's just the fact that because they have this natural gifted ability to do stuff, sport related, they're able to pick up multiple different sports and just have a crack, and their crack is much better than most people's. So overall, they were the 5 characteristics of a learner that you need to know about for HSC PE. Thanks, bye.